let's just put out that Oxfam report that came out earlier this year in the month of January that said that India's richest 1% own 40% of the wealth. So even while we'll say that the people in the aspirers or destitute category, according to this report, their incomes might rise, but income inequality is still extremely stark in our country, isn't it, Mr. Gurcharan Das? So that's a major concern. Even if middle class grows, the people above them are only going to grow even further.
That is true. But, think of it like this, that if everybody is going upwards, if you have growth, if you're creating jobs, and what is important is that your people below the poverty line are coming down to almost a marginal amount, your middle class is over 50%, then, I wouldn't worry too much. We shouldn't get hung up if some people are getting richer much faster. Obviously, that's not a good thing. I mean, the ideal society is not such an unequal society. The critical thing is now, not only did I say that we need to create an industrial revolution, that manufacturing has to rise much more, but also that if we can provide equality of opportunity, good schools for everybody. Today, what is sad about India's education structure is, frankly, that the quality of education that people get of a decent nature is confined to only about 20% of India. We need much better quality schooling. And we need to have a check. I mean, 1 out of 4 school teachers is absent, and it forces even the poor to go into private schools if the teachers don't come in government schools. Those, I believe, I mean, you can't be a middle class and not have a good education.
Absolutely.
So I would say that 1, create an industrial revolution. 2, and that's possible, as I said, why? And 2, really reform our schools. And the other thing is, today, 50% of Indian children are in private schools. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we should, India is rising despite the state, I wrote a book called India Grows at Night When the Government Sleeps. Well, the reality is India must grow during the day. We must have the government. So I would say if we can provide equality of opportunity, let's not worry about the other kind of inequality.
Right. So clearly we all seem to agree that we shouldn't just stick to the numbers, but it's the quality of life that we need to focus on. So there needs to be focus on health, education, to ensure that people's standard of living is actually improving and not just their income, because that will change according to the years, that will change according to growth, inflation as well. And as our guests have explained, that this has several conditions that will have to be met in order to for this to come true. But of course, as all projections are based on some assumptions, that's the case with this one as well. But these were the points. This is how a growing middle class for the country will have an impact on the country's social, political and economic sphere. But of course, quality of life is something that needs to be focused on a policy perspective, from a policy sphere, and not just sticking to these numbers.